You're listening to Leadership Recalibrated, where we dismantle outdated leadership playbooks and explore the new way to lead. I'm Lori Lalonde, founder of Her Executive Ascent, and I created this podcast because I was tired of hearing the same recycled advice about what it takes to be a good leader. You know the scripts: be more confident, lean in, develop executive presence. But what if those scripts were written for a leadership model that no longer works? What if the future of leadership looks less like commanding authority and more like strategic influence, emotional intelligence, and authentic power? Each week, we take on the questions most leadership programs avoid, the power dynamics nobody teaches, and the decisions that actually shape your career. This is where you stop following the old rules and start designing the leadership career that fits who you are now and where you're going next. Let's recalibrate. Welcome to Leadership Recalibrated, a leadership insight series by Her Executive Ascent. I'm Lori Lalonde, CEO and founder of Her Executive Ascent. On this episode, I sit down with Dinah Davis, founder of Code Like a Girl and multi-decade technology veteran who is now retired. Dinah spent her career on the edge of things, building technology that didn't have a name yet, leading teams before she'd fully learned how to lead, and eventually building a platform for women in tech that started as something much smaller and much more personal. Along the way, she got told by different people at different times that she wasn't technical enough and separately that she wasn't strategic enough. Two things that cannot both be true about the same person. This conversation moves through her early years at BlackBerry, a leadership lesson involving a duck that she still thinks about, the moment she stopped needing people to like her, and what she's seeing right now in the AI layoffs that everyone's talking about. She's also refreshingly honest about the parts of corporate leadership she never got good at and why she's not sorry about it. Let's get into it. Hi, Dinah. Welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me. I'm really excited to be here. This should be fun.
Yes, we've known each other a long time.
Yeah.
We are part of the same, tech community in the Waterloo region.
Yeah.
Before I get into that, share a bit about your, journey into tech, your background.
My Lord, how long do you have? This story could be so long. You probably don't want that. All right. Well, the very early days of it was that I really loved math in high school. And I really didn't know what to do, 17 years old. And it's interesting. I feel like my daughter knows more about what she wants to do, and she's going to university next year, maybe than I knew what I wanted. But so I was good at math, and I went to the career counselor, and he's like, "Oh, you're good at math. You should be a math teacher." What? I guess because I was a woman, I should be a math teacher. I guarantee you, any of the boys that went in there with the same math marks that I had, like high 90s, would have been told to go be like engineers or mathematicians. Maybe they wouldn't have been told to go be computer scientists because in 1997, that wasn't really something that was in our vernacular. But anyway, I listened because what I didn't know. So I went to university in Alberta, the University of Lethbridge, because they have this amazing program where you do 5 years and you come out with a bachelor's degree and a teaching degree combined. But they have this class at the end of the second year of your undergraduate, which is like a pre-education class. So before that, you're just taking like your bachelor's courses. And it actually had me in a classroom with kids, and I hated every minute of it. Every minute of it was not for me. It just wasn't for me at all. And I just found I was like way more interested in the math. And so that's kind of how I like didn't become a teacher. And then in my third year of university, I was forced to take computer science. It was a degree requirement for my course. And all my friends who were in humanities told me it was really hard. And so I've like been dreading this class. I just remember sitting in there in the first day even, and the professor, writing out how you build a hello world, how you build any kind of like if then function, any of those things. And I just thought, my God, this is glorious. This is just another syntax for how I think. This is like taking math and making it like a real world problem we could solve. And like in one class, I fell in love with computer science and tech. And then that ended up leading me to co-op terms where I ended up working for the Canadian government. and got into cryptography. And so then that led me to get a master's degree in cryptography from UW. That's how I ended up here in Southern Ontario. And I thought at that time, like while I was doing that maybe I would get a PhD. And like I really did not enjoy my master's degree. Like I enjoyed some of the things that I learned, but I realized that like I was not an academic, that I wasn't really interested in doing research per se. Like I wanted to build things. I wanted to do stuff. And I was very fortunate to get a job at BlackBerry. Well, actually, the entire time I worked there, it was called RIM. It was never called BlackBerry when I worked there. I left in like 2011. And I just finished writing this story that's going to come out in 2 weeks about like how I got this job at BlackBerry
Oh,
for Code Like a Girl. But like I went to this conference while I was still a student, and I met these 5 guys from BlackBerry, and it was a crypto conference. And we went to the conference dinner that night, and they were kind enough to invite me to sit with them. And this weird thing happened in front of me where they all sat and barely talked to each other and just clicked away on their Blackberries. And this was like the weirdest thing in the world because I didn't even own a cell phone. And like to think about it in today's terms, it's like taking somebody from 1990 and putting them at the dinner table now. And I think actually today we have better etiquette
yeah.
than they did then. Like it was so new and they were just working. I mean, when I worked there, I'm like, yeah, you were just addicted to your BlackBerry because like everything happened on it. But yeah, so I went to that conference, and then, I was getting married in December, and my husband was from New Zealand, and I needed a job to be able to sponsor him, to prove I could support him if he didn't get a job. I couldn't find a damn job because it was 2003. The tech bubble had just burst, and it's like a very similar kind of environment to today's job market, and hence why I'm writing this article. And anyway, what happened was I ran into the co-op student that had been at that dinner in a parking lot at UW campus, and I just said, I'm like, yeah. He's like, how's it going? I'm like, well, not that good. Like I've applied to all these jobs. I can't get a job. It's very stressful. And then he was just like, oh, well, let me show your resume to my old boss. And that was it. That is what got me the job. Well, that's not what got me the job. That's what got me my foot in the door for
The
the job.
interview.
It got me an interview.
Yes.
And I got myself the job.
Yes, that's right.
I got to work for the very lovely Herb Little at BlackBerry and spent 8 years there, like living on, what we all called the bleeding edge of mobile security. And it was great. It was amazing. It was my dream job out of university. And that's how I got into tech. And I spent the first 5 years as an actual software developer. And then I went on mat leave, and I came back, and that's when I transitioned into leading the teams, because like I was the person who got excited about meetings. Like
Oh,
what software
really?
developer gets excited about meetings? Because I was lonely at my
Oh,
desk. I just was like it was fine for a couple of hours at a time, and you were like solving problems, and that was really cool and interesting and all of that. But like you'd be like 5 hours in or something and be like, Lordy, I need to talk to somebody.
yeah.
And to like get excited about a meeting because it was something different. I wasn't at my desk by myself anymore.
Oh, I understand the need for the human interaction, but the meetings, absolutely not.
I mean, later in life, no. Later in life, I
Yeah.
did not enjoy it. I didn't, but I mean, later in life, later in my career, like my life was meetings. I mean, when you're an executive, that's basically 80% of your day is meetings,
Oh my god.
mind-numbingly. Yes.
Yeah. And like that's such a fascinating journey, right? And especially to be in BlackBerry at a time when it was soaring, right?
Yeah.
And they were the leaders in the market, and you were on a team essentially building software that was leading edge. And then when you moved into leadership, then now you're leading that type of a team. What was it like leading a team where you had like no roadmap for what was happening? You are on the bleeding edge. Like, how do you lead a team like that?
I mean, we had roadmap. I mean, like we had ideas. We had all kinds of ideas. And I think, like, the one benefit of, like, leading at BlackBerry where that was the only place where I led where I actually used to be a software developer, so, like, really had intimate knowledge of, like, the code and stuff. That was definitely an advantage for a while. It was something that was a really hard learning curve, like, moving to new companies and not having that background to just, like, lean on, and, like, you just had to spend more time fully understanding the architecture, whereas, like, at BlackBerry, like, the transition into leadership it was more natural for me, but I had to learn the leadership part and the, like, how you encourage people, not tell them things. All of that, like, that was definitely a hard learning curve the first year, and especially because 'cause they'd all been, like, my peers before I became the boss. Whereas, like, every other place after that, I came in hired as the boss. And so there was some interesting dynamics there. We did have very good product managers at BlackBerry. They were very good at helping us decide what was the next thing. I think the meteor stuff was, like, we actually built algorithms and protocols that didn't exist before. That was really interesting. Like, some of my favorite patents that I have, like, from BlackBerry are from actual, like, algorithms, like cryptographic algorithms that we created. So you could do secure communication over Bluetooth. Like, no one had ever done that before. Or a lot of the stuff, like, with the relay and how you got secure communication through the relay with the relay knowing nothing and being able to redirect that to people who weren't at BlackBerry are not going to get this. But anyway, the servers, the backend servers, I mean, if you think about it, like, what we did at BlackBerry, nobody was sending data over cell towers before that. So we
Yeah.
had all this infrastructure that was on top of what the telecommunication network built so that we could securely send data across all these cell towers. And that was just completely new and different. No one had ever done anything like that. So it was interesting. I remember building the first Wi-Fi protocols for BlackBerry. We had this, like, device that was supposed to be used only at Disney. And so it was going to be a Wi-Fi only device because, like, you have to remember, like, I don't even know when Wi-Fi came out anymore, but, like, in the early days of BlackBerry, like, don't you remember all of our houses had, like, a million wires? I remember, like, guys coming to work and being like, they just built a new house and they were so excited because they put networking wires into every room so they could work on their computer in any room.
Yep.
Like, that's just so
That
foreign.
was the flex back then.
It was such a flex back then. Um, but yeah, so we were trying to build a BlackBerry that would connect over Wi-Fi protocols, but the routers didn't give you their, like, detailed cryptographic implementation. You just had these white papers from researchers that described, like, the WPA2 protocols, but it didn't Cisco router, they didn't actually publish exactly how that worked so that you would have to buy their Wi-Fi products, right? So I spent, like, hours reverse engineering the Wi-Fi routers, like, using packet sniffers, like, all these things I never knew how to do. Those were the things that made it really hard. Or, like, learning how to load a Windows driver onto Vista when there was no documentation and no AI and not even, like, Google wasn't even really that good at finding stuff. Like, those were interesting days. Super fun.
Yeah. And for anyone that doesn't understand the context too, it's like Windows Vista is probably the least popular release of all the versions of
Well, I
Windows.
hated it because I spent an entire month in, I don't know, somewhere around 2007, figuring out how to load a driver, a developer driver, an unsigned driver onto Vista, and just so I could run tests.
Yeah.
I don't remember how solved that problem, but my boss would come by every day and he'd be like, "Where's this at?" And I'd be like, "I don't know. When I figure it out, I'll tell you."
Well, yeah. And that's huge. That's huge because the way development is nowadays, so much of it is building on patterns that exist.
Mm,
And there was a time where you couldn't just go to the internet to see how someone
no,
else did something,
no.
especially in BlackBerry when, like I said, it's bleeding edge. You're leading in that space and having to figure it out on your own. No documentation, no one else is
Nope,
doing it,
nope.
patenting out things. Like that's very, very cool stuff. And then getting into the leadership aspect and then staying within leadership and moving into different companies.
Mhm.
At some point, you created the platform Code Like a Girl. And so I'd love to know what was the inspiration behind that?
like there it was like a slow build to that. But basically, so like in 2011, end of 2011, I could kind of see the writing on the wall at BlackBerry. Like that was a lot earlier than most people were seeing it, but because of like where our team was positioned in the company, how we were always communicating across so many different departments, like you could just see it falling apart. And I was like, okay, it might be time to leave. And then a headhunter approached me, which was that was a really normal thing at the time. Like people from BlackBerry were getting poached a lot around 2011. And it was for like a different local cybersecurity company. And so I jumped. I was like, okay, like the stress here at BlackBerry is so high, everything. And I jumped over there, but I didn't look carefully enough about where I was landing. And my experience with the two bosses, my two direct bosses at BlackBerry, were phenomenal. Possibly still to this day, the best two bosses I've ever had, just as far as how they respected the people that worked for them. Pushed you hard still, pushed you hard, but you were respected as a person. And I landed in this job, and my new boss was a misogynist. He was a bully. He was probably a narcissist. And in 10 months destroyed my self-esteem.
Oh, I
It
am so
it was
sorry.
really horrible. And like I will admit, I came out of BlackBerry very burnt out as well. And I didn't take time to deal with that at that time. So just it was really, really bad for my mental health. And so when I left there, I looked next time I jumped, I like looked way more and questioned the culture at the next place that I went to. But part of it was my daughter was, I think, 4 or 5 at the time. And I was just like, all this time before at BlackBerry and everything, I had kind of like never uttered the word feminism or sexism. And to be honest, in my little team didn't feel that. In the broader team, and there was some other things that happened in the broader team, that definitely existed at BlackBerry, like it pretty much does at every tech company. But I'd never experienced what I had at the next company. And I was like, that's it. I'm not going to pretend I'm one of the guys anymore. I'm not going to be quiet about what it can be like for a woman in tech. So, and I was like, I have a big enough career reputation now that I can choose where I want to work. Dramatically, like if I think another company is going to not be okay with me like promoting stuff for women in tech, then I don't need to work for them. I'll find something else. And so I ended up going to D2L, and they were more than okay with that kind of thing. And I started blogging a little bit more. I never actually blogged about what it was like to be a woman in tech at that point. I blogged a lot more about like getting girls into STEM. And then while I was at D12, I helped Communitech grow their first women in tech peer-to-peer group. And, when we started, we were just like 10 people, and they asked for leaders, and I volunteered, and me and a couple other ladies grew it to almost 400 people in 2 years. Clearly, there was a need in the community to have it, and maybe that's when we met Laurie. So, I was starting to really get involved in those kind of things. I had gotten involved with another organization called Kagus. I don't know if they're still around, but that was for young kids doing events and stuff, like getting girls involved in STEM stuff. And I brought my daughter to Kagus and that kind of stuff. And then I went to this grade 9 event for girls. Maybe you've heard of it locally. It's called Think About Math. And it's for Waterloo alumni. They ask women who have degrees in math, to come back and do a talk, and then do this kind of like speed dating style thing with grade 9 girls. And the idea is to show them what they could do with a math degree. And various different women are there at different career paths and stuff. And so in 2015, I got asked to do that. And I thought, okay, I need to bring something with me that's kind of fun and cool for the girls to remember that, they could do tech. Right. And so I was at D2L at the time. I went to the marketing team like, hey, what do you have? Like, what kind of cool stuff could I bring? And they were like, here's some pens.
Pens are not fun.
I was like, grade 9 girls don't care about pens.
No, they don't.
So So I decided, I was like, well, what if I created like a sticker or something? And then, like, okay, so this story is actually coming out on, it's the first time I've actually written this specific story about how Code Like a Girl got its name. It's coming out tomorrow on my Substack, on Code Like a Girl Substack. But anyway, at the time, there were these Always commercials. You remember like Always pads? And they brought people in and they recorded them and said, run like a girl, throw like a girl. And they would do it like so weak and effeminate and just like awful, right? And then they brought in like 9-year-old girls and said, run like a girl. And they would just like run as hard as they could or throw as hard as they could. And then they showed those videos back to the people who did it originally. And they were like gobsmacked, like, oh my God, I can't believe I did that. That's not cool. And so this ad had been, it went live on the Super Bowl of 2015. And so this was kind of in the back of my mind. And so I was like, what if I made a sticker that said code like a girl? Like,
Yes.
I bet they would like that. That's kind of nice, right? It's like a riff on this thing that's kind of in the media right now. And so I used some stock image of like kind of an androgynous girl too, not like a girly girl, an androgynous girl. And I put code like a girl on the bottom. And then I printed it with my own money and I made like 80 stickers and I took them to the event. I think I kept 2 or 3 like for myself, but otherwise they were gone.
I love it.
And it wasn't just the girls that grabbed, it was the other women who were there as speakers who grabbed them. And so that kind of started this idea of Code Like a Girl to me, and I ended up like moving companies from D2L to Arctic Wolf that summer. And while I was off for the week, I built a little very basic website that said Code Like a Girl. I don't know what I thought it was going to do. I didn't really have a very good idea about that. And then like 6 months later, I was on Medium trying to find a home for my writing around women in tech, and on Medium at that time, having a publication would amplify that. And I found one woman in tech publication. I submitted my story. They're like, it's not good enough. And I was like, well, whoop-de-doo, okay. And then I was like, wait a sec, how hard is it to create a publication on Medium? This is how all the things happen in my life, these spur of
Love
the
it.
moment decisions, and they're either good or horrible. Um,
No,
and,
it's
and
fantastic.
turns out, like 2 clicks,
Yep.
2 clicks. So I created it, and then I was like, whoa, what's better than my voice than like hundreds of voices? And this is how Called Like a Girl started on Medium. And yeah, now it's 10 years later. It's still on Medium, but Medium is now a dying platform. Most stories are lucky to get 50 views, which is just horrible and sad and depressing. And last February, I decided to try Substack out for myself, for my own personal writing, as a place where I could just write about anything and everything I wanted. And so in August, after trying it out for a while, I was like, this is a cool place. I bet Code Like a Girl could have a better home here. So we expanded to Substack in late August. We haven't killed it on Medium yet, but I feel like the end will happen in the next couple of years. Unless Medium can do something to turn it around, it may just not be worth our time to keep it there if people are getting like 20 views. It's really sad. But the community on Substack has been amazing, and it's really grown there. We're close to 2,000 subscribers already.
That's amazing.
And just a vibrant community. People are really supportive, and we curate the content way higher. So like on Medium, we're publishing in the heyday, we were probably publishing like 80 stories a month, maybe up to 100 sometimes. On Substack, we only do 3 stories a week. And like they're the best stories I can find
Nice.
about anything related to tech, to women in tech, always written by women. A lot of it's about AI now, because that's like the world we're in. But yeah, it's been good.
That's phenomenal. And yeah, I'm such a fan of the platform, and I can't believe it's been over a decade since it was
I know.
created. Oh my gosh.
I mean, when I started, my daughter was like 7, and now she's going to university. My goodness.
Wow. Well, and I think that's the right move to move it to Substack to keep it going, because Medium had made it a bit challenging to access a lot of articles that when they turned to like a paid model. So
Mhm.
I like Substack because you choose what content you give your subscribers that are free
Yep.
and then what you can
Yeah.
offer in a paid subscription. And so it
Yep.
gives you control over that as the author. And I love that.
Yeah.
And I also want to share a story with the people listening, I published one of my stories to Code Like a Girl. So I had sent it in
Did,
and
yeah.
you
Yeah,
had
yeah, yeah,
published
on
it.
Medium many, many years ago.
And I think like I had a panic attack the first negative
Oh.
comment I had because some man took offense to the fact that I was calling out someone for their misogynist behavior in an
Right.
interview. And there was, there's always that, well, that's not really misogyny. And it's like,
Right, yes, the gaslighting.
I am just like, I don't need this in my life right now. And
Yeah. Yeah, you wanted to pull the
I
article.
wanted to pull it. I'm like, you know what? I'm done with this. Pull. And you talked me off the ledge.
I did,
And then,
and it was okay.
oh yeah. And then after that, I was like,
Did I end up blocking the guy who made the comment? I probably
I
did.
don't know. But all I thought at the time was, usually I have pretty thick skin and I have always been a rabble rouser in corporate. Like I have gone toe to toe with
Mhm.
everybody and anybody you can imagine up the chain, up to the CEO level. I didn't care. And I'm like, why did I let one idiot
From the
rattle
internet.
me? Like it's just, you know what I mean? I didn't
Yeah, but it's
understand it.
scary.
Yeah.
It's scary. I still don't like those comments, and it comes up a lot on Substack. People are like, "I don't know what to do about this," or whatever, and I'm like, "Well, 1, on Substack, they make it really easy. You can just block them.
Yeah.
Like, you just don't need that negativity in your life." And if it seems like a reasonable comment, but it's just a little bit sideways, you can try responding. Generally, unless I think they are reasonable, I don't.
Yeah.
I just block and move on because
Yeah.
it's just not worth your time.
Yeah, I think I learned after I mean, and with now with social media having been in our lives for so long and seeing all the nonsense that can happen, now I
Mhm.
look back on that and I'm like, yeah, like none of that matters and people are going to say what they're going to say and there are going to be people who have very negative views anytime we share a real experience we had
Yeah.
and, that whole gaslighting is real in trying to minimize the situation or make it seem like it was just in our heads. And
Mm.
I am so beyond that at this point in my life. And I think even that my age is a factor because, like, at 52,
I
I'm just like,
I totally think age is a
I
factor.
have no time for this at all.
No.
My time and energy are better spent in other places, so I just don't even care. But yeah, and so I wanna thank you for that because that was the moment that was just like, "Yeah, why do I care? Why is this a big deal?" Like, it's not a big deal, and my story needs to be shared, and I think that
Yeah.
was the point is
Yeah.
I was going to silence my self and take my story down just because somebody was like, took offense to the fact that I was calling the man that this person had no idea who that man was, a misogynist for the way he treated me in the interview, and you know what? Whether it was he was sexist or misogynist, he was a jerk. And
Yeah, regardless, he was a jerk.
hands down.
Yeah.
It was it was a story worth sharing because that resonates with women who also experience that so they don't feel alone. And so I find that that platform is so important. And even now today, with what we're seeing as far back as a backlash on DEI because of the
Yeah.
administration in the US,
Yeah.
some of that is pouring over into Canada, although we are fine. But I mean, some of it does bleed here, into the behaviors and the attitudes and such around DEI.
But that was also why I couldn't let Code Like a Girl die, 'cause I
Mhm.
felt like if I only stayed on Medium, then it was gonna die, and it was gonna die in the worst time possible. And, we had made so many gains, that it was mid-2025. It was just the dismantling was just so evident. And I was like, if ever there was a time for a publication like this to amplify these stories, to help women in tech get more credibility, like that's the whole point we've always existed. It wasn't just to tell the stories of what it's like, is to build a community for women to feel more confident, to help them feel like people have their back, and to change perceptions of them as being not technical enough bullshit.
Yeah.
So, like publishing their technical stories, publishing their thoughts, their ideas, right? And we've always been a mix of kind of all of those things, and we still are, but it was the wrong time to let it go, I
Yeah.
felt like, right? And I'm sure at some point I will let it go because it can't live forever, but now is not that time.
Yeah. And it's so funny because it's like it's this cycle of
Mm,
women aren't insert word here enough.
Mhm.
Women aren't good enough at math, right? Or like women aren't technical enough. Women aren't strategic enough.
Yeah, the strategic oh my god, the number of times 1, the number of times I was basically told I wasn't technical enough, and then 2, not strategic enough. Just so frustrating. And, like, to tell somebody like me I'm not technical enough I have a master's degree in
Yeah.
cryptography. I spent 5 years building software myself and then led teams that build software. No, did in my later in my career, did I get in dirty with the code? No. Because I don't think that's what a good director does. I think they get people to explain what's happening and they ask the right questions and they know when they're being bullshitted. And that's what a good technical leader is, not one that still spends Saturdays writing code.
Yeah.
Like, that's such a stereotype of a bro dude
Yep.
because they love to do. That doesn't mean it's the right thing. It
Yep.
doesn't mean it's the only way to do it. But I wanted to say to them, I wanted to challenge them, explain any technical concept to me. I will be shocked if I can't understand it. Do I know
Exactly.
it all off the top of my head? No, but neither do you. Oh man, that would just frustrate me so much. And then the strategic thinking or the executive presence, or because
Yeah.
sometimes I would get too emotional. Yeah, when not crying, just like passionate about it. I'm like, yeah, you did too.
Yeah.
So frustrating.
I witnessed a guy punch a wall during a meeting.
And that's not acceptable.
I know it's not acceptable, but it happened. And
Yeah.
yet, yes, women are too emotional. Like, please, really? Like, are you serious? And so, what if I'm
Yeah.
emotional, right? Big
Yeah.
deal. Am I getting my work done with passion, with fervor, with attitude? Sure.
Yeah.
But like, it's
And
getting
like
done.
was my demeanor always perfect in what was needed in that moment? Probably not, no, but neither were you, that's the
Yeah.
point. It's not that, like, I claim to be perfect at all of this, and I'm gonna admit, like, I kinda suck at the politics, and because I just don't like being manipulative, and to be really, really good at being an executive in the world of tech at the highest level, you have to be manipulative. I think you could maybe build a company that's not like that,
Yes.
but that is what the existing infrastructure is, right?
There's a pattern I want to name because I think a lot of accomplished women run into it with ever quite noticing. Somewhere along the way, understanding power and playing politics get treated as the same thing, and they're not. Reading a room, knowing who actually decides where influence really sits, which relationships move things and which ones don't, is a form of literacy. Manipulating people is an ethic or the absence of one. You can have the literacy without the ethic. Most of us were never taught that these are two separate skills, so we default to lumping them together and opting out of the whole thing rather than sort out which part we actually object to. And that's costing every single woman in corporate today. Not the discomfort with politics. That discomfort is a sign of good instincts. It's really when decisions get made about you in rooms you weren't equipped to read by people whose incentives you never fully understood. So, I want to be clear here. Opting out does not protect your integrity. It just means you find out about the decision that affects you after it's already been made. So, this is exactly the territory we work through inside Her Executive Ascent in the module on navigating power dynamics and politics within an organization. It's not about playing games and it's not about being manipulative. We go through how you can read a room accurately, understand where influence actually sits, and move through it in a way that's still recognizably you. It's a skill, not a personality trait, which means it can be learned, and it's a lot faster to learn it deliberately than to piece it together on your own, one hard lesson at a time. If this sounds like something you're struggling with, reach out to me through herexecutiveascent.com and let's talk about it. Now let's get back to the episode.
And I realized, like, there was a time in my career where I was a VP and there was a possibility of them hiring somebody above me or not when my boss left. And part of me wanted that job, like, for the ego. And the other part of me realized I would have hated every minute of it. And so when they did hire somebody above me, I was relieved because I didn't I didn't wanna play all of their games anymore, and, I finally had some air cover. I really loved the building teams part. I really loved building, creating, scaling the teams, and I did okay managing up, but that wasn't my best skill set.
And I can acknowledge that that is something that every woman at some point or another has felt or voiced, right?
Mm,
It's that feeling of, I don't want to play the politics because I don't want to be manipulative. And that's the game right now.
yeah.
And I want to ask for the next generation to change that perception of politics as manipulation, right? Because that's how it has been used. But how about we look at politics in a way of how we navigate it, how we understand the power dynamics,
Mm.
and how we move in that maintaining our authenticity and our value, and being genuine, not being manipulative, but just understanding the power moves that happen and the different political relationships you have to build to get things done and to get people on board, but not in a
I
manipulative
also think as
way.
part of that, you have to figure out how to build a thick skin. And for me, that was a difficult thing to do.
Yeah.
I had one boss who he would tell me, Dinah, you got to be like a duck. And I'm like, what are you talking about? What do you mean a duck? Like when it rains, water just runs off their backs. And he was like, you've got to just let the shit flow off you. And I was like, that's a good analogy. And, I think near the end of my career, I did that a bit better.
Yeah.
Um, but I also think that I care too much.
Yeah.
I care about the people who work for me too much. I care about the customers so much. And I cared what people thought about me. And I think something that I really reflect back on now and that I figured out in the later years of my career is that you don't need people to like you. You need them to respect you. And if you're going to climb a corporate ladder, that is probably the biggest lesson to learn. And maybe it's never a problem for you, right? Maybe you weren't a people pleaser like I was or like I am. Let's be
Yeah.
real.
I've never been a people pleaser. I actually I would revel in the fact that I would be so excited to go into meetings to say no to things because I knew I
But
was
okay,
doing it
that's
for the right
different though. I feel like
reasons.
that's different because I
Yeah,
did that too.
yeah,
Things I believed in, I would say no.
mhm,
But having my boss and their boss's approval of the work that I was doing, that was important to me. When in the end, I I needed to let go of that and to
yeah,
know that I was doing the right things, that I had my own integrity, and that I was making the right business moves, whether they liked it always or not. I was doing the right things for the customer and I was doing the right things for my employees
yeah,
and in
exactly.
turn the business. There's that thing. You can't always do everything you want to do for the employee because it is a business and there's
Mhm,
some bottom lines and you have to do that. But you can do it with empathy.
yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, so learning, and that's the one thing I tell a lot, especially women, they don't need to like you. They do need
No,
to respect you, but they don't need to like you.
but I'll go back to that piece of caring too much because I don't think that there is a possibility of caring too much, right? I think the care is the most important piece of a team, and
Yeah, I do too.
it's a skill that I feel that corporate doesn't value, to this
They do
extent that they
not.
should, because when you have that care for people on your team, you take that time to be understanding of what drives them, what motivates them, how to challenge them even in their current roles so that, giving them opportunities to showcase growth and and progress, though it's not in the form of a promotion, but
Yeah.
maybe building additional skill sets that sets them up for maybe another opportunity down the road or to get that promotion. And that takes a lot of time and nurturing with each person to understand those things and then setting them up for success and creating that environment of success, right? And that requires care because if you don't care about the people, then you're not doing all that. All you're doing is just focused on meeting deadlines, which are
Yeah.
arbitrary, letting all the scope creep in and doing everything to the detriment of your team, but to your benefit to your leaders above you to make them feel better. I've never been one to make my leaders feel better. You can probably ask any of them. In any of the companies I worked at, I dished it like it was. I always told it like it was, and I would always push back. And at times it cost me my job. That was part and parcel of it, but I
Yeah.
was okay with that because I and it wasn't even about being in a leadership role. It was just even being in an individual contributor role, but having boundaries where I knew should not and ever be crossed. And once they were crossed, I was like, that's it, game on.
Yeah.
And it usually involved
Yeah.
my family, right? It usually involved them picking at me for being a mother and, being dedicated enough to want to work like 80-hour work weeks or this
Mm.
nonsense and that nonsense. And there were times I did work those kind of work weeks, but the expectation of that being constant was
Yeah,
ridiculous.
yeah,
And
yeah,
I didn't
that's
subscribe to
hard.
that. And I don't
I
think
did not
our
do that either, and there was
yeah.
the occasional, like in big periods of push, but
Yeah.
otherwise I had strong boundaries. Actually, I think, like, being at BlackBerry taught me that I had to do that.
Yes.
Um, Because if you're at BlackBerry, okay, BlackBerry is before chat apps, right? And so the winning at BlackBerry meant you were the loudest in the room and the fastest to reply to email. I don't know if you remember that, but that's
Yeah.
what it's like.
Yeah,
And
that's what it's like in a lot of tech companies. Yeah.
yeah, but it was all email then because that was just the way it was, but now we had these fancy devices where the email was with us at all times, which now it feels like a very normal thing, but at that time was not, and families didn't understand that at all, like, at the time.
Yeah.
They were like, "What? Why are you carrying that around? Like,
Yeah.
why just put it away when you get home?" And it took me a while to one, the etiquette at BlackBerry, so this, and I will admit this still drives me ballistic, is if people have actual noise notifications on their phones, that drives me crazy.
Yeah.
Because when we were at BlackBerry at the beginning, almost within weeks of you starting there, you realized you turn all your notifications off. Otherwise, we're all gonna go crazy, right? So that was the first thing to go, was noise. Then it would vibrate and it would have a red flashing light when you
Oh,
had a new
yeah, I
email.
remember that.
Red flashing light. And I remember we were, like, going on a camping trip, and I was trying to put my phone away, and every time I put it away, I could see the light blinking, and my stress would just start going up like
Oh,
crazy, and my husband was like, "Put it away." And so then, I think the vibrating went first because I couldn't deal with it vibrating every time I got an email, because it's hundreds of emails a day that we were
yeah.
getting. I mean, it was basically treated like a chat app is today, right? Like,
Mhm.
you would respond to emails quickly as you would respond in Slack or whatever else you have today. And then finally, the red light died. The red light, I had to kill the red light as well, and the only thing I could deal with was the splat. The splat on the icon of how many messages you have, and to this day, my phone makes 0 noises for emails. Family members get a noise on chats, that is it, and I don't look at any notifications on my phone, I just look at splats.
Yeah, yeah. Mine, like, everything's off as far as, like,
Everything's off.
no
It's
notifications, no
off.
sound, no vibration, no nothing. But when I
Yeah,
look at my phone, I see, okay, is someone messaging me? And I do have my favorites for messages so that I see
yeah.
those first. But, yeah, exactly, because we are inundated in a world of full of noise.
Yeah, and then later, when I was at, like, Arctic Wolf and things were crazy, I would just shut everything, the notifications for everything off at 6 p.m.
Yes,
And I
that's the
wouldn't
key.
check Slack at all, and I was like, "If something's really bad, they will phone me because they have my phone number," and that happened a handful of times. Otherwise, it could wait till morning.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Nothing is so urgent that it needs us 24/7. We're not needed in that way, and we have taught ourselves that that's the way to success, and that's the way
Yeah, and, like,
to
when you rent a 24-hour sock, there is a need for somebody 24 hours
yes.
a day, but we created on-call
Yes.
rotations.
100% because nobody can be on 24/7
No.
non like indefinitely. That's and that whole thing with women not being enough, and then this whole thing with AI, and this is what
Mhm.
infuriates me. So you have Code Like a Girl, tons of women are posting about AI.
Lots.
And yet, all we hear about in public spheres is women aren't adopting AI fast enough, or women are refusing to adopt
That's
AI.
actually complete bullshit because there was a report recently that showed that more than 50% of ChatGPT's users are women.
Like,
More than 50%.
right? And I was looking at some of the articles too, and really, the way they make it sound is that women are not embracing AI. But
It's
then
not true.
some articles are saying, well, men are embracing it at this percentage, and women are embracing it at this percentage. And it's really a minimal difference.
Yeah.
But what there is research on, and Lean In has published this too, is in the workplace,
Yeah,
women are actually being penalized
yeah.
for using AI at companies that tell people to use AI. Like,
Yeah,
my
it's being looked
God.
at as a shortcut. They're
Yeah,
not doing their jobs properly. It's just another way to suppress women.
it's infuriating. I read
Mhm.
that and I was like, my God, could we get any more obvious at that you are doing everything? And you, I mean like the universal corporate
Yeah.
playbook to make women always feel that they're not enough. They're not
Yep.
doing enough.
Yeah.
And the thing that I love about women, the way they approach AI and what I've seen consistently is they approach it with the awareness that, yes, there's concerns around this, there's bias in it. We've seen the bias in it. And there has to be a pragmatic way to approach it. It doesn't mean not doing it, but it means uh, following a process to identify the value, the fit, the risks.
Mm.
And that's how it should be done.
Mhm.
But a lot of teams and companies I've seen, they're treating it like the wild, wild west because everybody just wants to be first. And with
Mm.
this type
Mhm.
of technology, we need women in leadership with that balanced view of, yes, we're going to adopt it, but it's not let's just throw spaghetti at a wall and throw something out to the public sphere. Let's actually identify what makes sense, how it can be optimized, how we can actually realize a return on investment without putting anything at risk, right? And so I believe women are going to be the thought leaders in this space, but with that type of narrative, it feels like there's already this campaign to discredit women in the workplace with respect to AI,
Yeah.
and I wanna change that. So, like, I'd love to
Oh,
hear
yeah, 100%.
what you're seeing and, does
Mhm.
that line up?
Yeah, I mean, it does. So, the other thing there's, there's this other really amazing account on Substack called She Writes AI. This lady, Karen Smiley. Karen Smiley, in like December of 24, saw an article written by a man that listed, top 10 people in AI. And there wasn't even one woman on the list. And she was like, why aren't there any women on your list? Right. And so it was the top 10 AI Substack writers. That's what it was. And she's like, what are you talking about? There's women writing about Substack on AI, and they're really good too. Um, and so she like wrote one article that like pulled together a list of like 20 people she'd already knew about. And then she decided to like just create a directory. And a year and a half later, there's over 700 women on her directory who are women who write about AI on Substack.
Love it.
And that's really important, right? And now the other piece that it does is as soon as one woman finds the list, now they've found 700 other women writing about AI.
Love that.
And that creates a community. And then so every week she publishes a story that highlights everything those women have published. It's a giant story. It's not one you can really like read from start to finish, but it has like sections and areas and you can scroll through it. And, she's got like a script that builds that for her because
That's
obviously,
amazing.
I mean, she's got an AI script, like she created,
Love it.
vibe coded something to do that. The other piece of that is one of the things that I'm doing now with Code Like a Girl is in December of this past year, I noticed that the technology bestseller lists only had like it's on Substack, there's two lists for specific categories. So one category is technology, and there's the 100 top bestsellers, as in these are the 100 top people whose paid revenue, their ARR, these are the top. This is the top 100. And then there's a rising list, which is these are the people that are growing the fastest. Okay. And I looked at the list to find more women in tech to like follow, see their stories, see if I could publish them on Code Like a Girl. And I was like, wait, I feel like there's almost none on here. So I manually counted it. There was 10 women
Oh,
on a
man.
list of 100. And so I was like, my God, I've got to start tracking this, right? So I wrote some code for the first time in a while. I completely vibe coded it, 100%, right? It's a nice little Python script, so I can understand it and everything. But I definitely wrote it with AI. With I think I used ChatGPT then, but now I'm using Claude Code. And now I run my script every week. We pull the list of bestsellers. We pull the list of rising. I manually categorize their gender because I'm not gonna have a computer do that, plus it's still guesswork. Like,
Yeah.
I think 2 people have called out that I misgendered them. That's okay. So I was like, I knew that could happen. Like, it's hard. It's an easy process, and I don't specifically call out the genders of the people. I just list the women who are on the list, and then
Yeah.
one lady was like, "Why am I not on the list?" I was like, "Well, because your name of your account is, like, completely." I had actually gendered it as unknown.
Yeah.
But so anyway, the point is, rising has sat around 12 to 13%. Bestseller goes between 8 and 10. So,
Abysmal.
but now somebody's tracking it,
That's
right?
good. Yeah.
Now it's being talked about out loud,
Yeah. Which we
right?
need, right? It needs that visibility.
And we've built a whole series. I call it Women Rising, a whole monthly series. Each month, we post an article with tips and tricks on how to increase your Substack, like viewers and stuff, which is not really a Code Like a Girl thing. But
Mhm.
because these lists are like that, somebody has to also be helping them, give them tips on how to like get onto these lists. Because once you're on those lists, these are big visibility things.
Yeah.
You get more viewers. Like it's a flywheel that just keeps going, right?
100%. Well, I love that you're doing that work. And yes, I know we are a little bit over time, but I'm going to ask you the question I always ask my guests as the
All right.
final question. You've seen the corporate world from like every angle. We're talking technical expert, executive, founder, board member, mentor, all the things. You are amazing. What's one rule from the corporate playbook you'd like to see retired, and what would you replace it with?
So the biggest thing that I think is one treating people like resources. That one, you can just swap one person out for another, a more expensive person for a cheaper person, discounting their lived experience and the knowledge that's just in their brain that you don't know about, or replacing the person with AI. This idea that you can do that. And then the biggest impact we're going to have is the fact that we're replacing every junior developer or junior role in many places with AI. What is going to happen in 15 years when
Ex-
there's no juniors to become seniors? Some people, I think, probably believe that AI will just take care of it all and we won't need any of them, but I don't think that's going to be true. I don't know that we'll need a software developer in the same sense that we have a software developer today in 15 years, but we're still going to need somebody who completely understands all the architecture and everything running underneath it to make sure whatever prompts we're building are doing the right things, right? If you just rely on those people today, the ones who are 15 years in today, they're not going to be here in 15 more years. So we still have to find ways to train the juniors. And it's the same for software developers, security analysts, data analysts, all kinds of roles where, you're just like, we don't need, or maybe like the law assistant, the person who used to go and do the research.
yeah,
Uh, AI can't solve every problem that we have. And people aren't just resources, they're not numbers. They have skills that you just can't it's my biggest pet peeve, and it's hard to watch all these layoffs happen and have people treated like that, right? Obviously, you can't always hold the same roster of people all the time. There are economic downturns and you have to make your employees smaller, but the criteria that they use to do that, it feels icky to me. I feel like there's probably better ways to do it with empathy
yeah,
and
absolutely.
considering the people and considering the organization and what you're benefiting from those people. They're not just a name and a salary.
Yeah, a line in a spreadsheet.
Yeah. They're not
And
just in a spreadsheet.
I think what makes this different, this time different than any other time in history of what we've seen from layoffs, is in the past, layoffs have been something that was a negative stain on a company. It's like, oh, if you had to lay off people, you
Yeah.
mismanaged. You mismanaged the company's portfolio, and that's a bad thing, and that had shame with it. So that was a last resort. And somewhere along the way, it
Yeah.
became like a regular part of the business, like a rhythm. But
Yep.
still, they were still not to the scale that we're seeing today. And today
Yeah.
we're seeing tens of thousands of people losing their job. And because the scale is so large, it's done in an inhumane way, like
Yep.
a
A
random
video
email.
call, an email.
And people that have served at those companies for decades, and that's what they get, right?
Yeah.
And so it doesn't discriminate, right? There are people at all levels that are getting cut. So people who are good enough for the company for 20, 30 years, all of a sudden you're gone. Here's
Yep.
your email, goodbye. Here's your package. And so it's not even about like there's not a clear pattern in how it's being decided. Every company's doing it differently. But the thing that is different with this, it's not that they're not profitable. They are profitable. They are
Yeah.
ridiculously and obscenely profitable, but
Yeah.
they're saying, "We're going to take this money and invest it in AI infrastructure." Not even AI specifically, but the infrastructure, the data centers, as though we don't have enough data centers that are causing problems. They want more data centers to support the scale of AI that they need to eventually replace those jobs. So they're just gonna cut the people now. And where does the work now land in this limbo of a promise of AI. And yes, there are places where AI has been used to automate away some low value, low impact work and like tedious work, sure. But at the scale of layoffs that we're seeing, those specific roles and expertise is not being replaced with AI. And
Mhm.
companies are finally admitting now that it's like, oh, they're not being replaced with AI now, but we are we're diverting the funds into the infrastructure to build so that we can be competitive. That's what's infuriating. And I love the fact that this may be an unpopular opinion, but I love the fact that China is leading the charge right now by saying making it illegal for companies to fire or lay somebody off to replace them with AI.
Oh, wow. That
Yeah.
is weirdly good for
Why don't
China.
we what is our government doing on this? Because that's what we need. It's because
Yeah.
we know it's going to decimate communities.
It is.
If they're allowed to continue to operate at this scale where these companies are so profitable, just because the stock market goes up one day, they'll just continue to be profitable doing nothing else. How is there going to be investment back into communities or or assurance that there will be, roles in this new AI era for everybody? There's got to be a place for everybody, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think they would just argue that capitalism will create it.
Yeah. Like, we can't have 8 tech billionaires selling us this whole theme of, "Oh, don't worry, you'll just get a universal income. You don't have to worry about work. You don't have to worry about school." Like, no, I'm not
Uh,
buying into that, and I don't want to live in a world like that. How boring would
no,
it be? And
no.
I'm not going to just take it lying down. I'm gonna fight. I'm gonna
Yeah.
fight for us to be able to continue contributing ways that we can to in an economy, but also leveraging our skills and talents and have an impact on the world. It doesn't
Yeah.
end with Musk and Altman. I'm sorry. I will not let that happen.
Oh, no, it does not. It does not.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for your time today, Dinah. It
No
was
problem, thank
such a
you.
treat being able to catch up with you.
Yeah, no worries.
I love this conversation.
Good, it's good, it's good.
Amazing. And then I will include all the links in the show notes for Code Like a Girl Substack and
Okay.
then the She Writes AI Substack,
Yeah.
all those good things because
Mhm.
everybody needs to go subscribe, read those articles and include women's voices in your feeds. That's how you
Yeah,
do it. That's how you
that's right.
understand what we're actually doing in these spaces instead of whatever the media tells you.
Yeah, exactly, right?
Amazing. Awesome. Well,
Okay.
thank you again. This conversation with Dinah was an important one, and there are a few things I don't want you to lose from it. First, the moving target. As women, we are often told we are not technical enough, then not strategic enough. Even Dinah, a woman with a master's degree in cryptography and 8 years actually building software, received that feedback. And that's not real feedback. That's just a pattern that's worth naming when you see it in your own room because it is a bias that implicitly shows up that denotes women aren't as technical or strong technically or not very strategic. And we know those observations are absolutely incorrect. And another thing I want to call out is the duck. Let the shit roll off of you. Dinah didn't love that advice when she got it and admits she still cares more than the advice would suggest that she should. I'd rather have a leader who cares too much than one who stopped caring at all. Dinah is a very caring leader, but she made a great point. You need people to respect you, not to like you. And you can care, but to a point that doesn't put your own nervous system under stress. And the thing she said about resources, people are not line items, they're not interchangeable, and the current wave of layoffs funding AI infrastructure that isn't even replacing anyone's job yet, it's not about AI at all. So if you're in the room that has to sign off on the org change because of AI, start asking more questions about what skills you're actually losing and who's filling the vacuum. And is there evidence of that? So lastly, Dinah Davis runs Code Like a Girl, which has been publishing women's voices and technical stories since long before this was a trend. And she's also tracking, with an actual script she built, how few women show up on the tech bestseller lists that shape who gets called an expert. Links to Code Like a Girl and to Karen Smiley's She Writes AI directory are in the show notes. Go read them, subscribe to them. That's how you get a fuller picture of what's actually happening in this industry instead of whatever gets amplified by default. And it's also how you support women who are doing great work in this industry but aren't getting the visibility. Thank you for listening, and I'll see you in the next episode. The leadership advice that got many women this far will not necessarily get them where they want to go next. This phase of your career is not about working harder. It's about working strategically by deciding which rules still apply and which ones you are finally ready to outgrow. If this conversation resonated, stay with us, subscribe to the podcast, and join me here every Sunday for new episodes. And if it gave you language for something you've been carrying quietly, share it with another woman in your network who needs to hear it too. Until next time, lead with intention, question everything, and change the rules for the better. I'm Lori Lalonde, and this is Leadership Recalibrated.